Dear students, welcome to UGC EPG Pathashala on Human Rights and Duties. My name is Professor YSR Murthy. I am the Executive Director for the Center for Human Rights Studies, OP Jindal Global University. In this unit on National Mechanisms for Protection and Enforcement of Human Rights, we are going to take up the module relating to the role of legislature. Right in the first module, we discussed the National Human Rights Protection System, and we have also briefly discussed the role of the three wings of the state, that is the legislature, the executive, the judiciary, as well as the role of the civil society and also the National Human Rights Commission in the protection and promotion of human rights. And in the subsequent modules, we also saw the role of the judiciary and in particular the public interest litigation as well as the advancement of human rights of detainees, the bonded laborers, the prisoners, as well as the women, and the PIL also made a substantive contribution on the right to a clean environment. We have also discussed the role of human rights courts. In this module, we take up the role of legislature. What is the role of legislature with regard to protection and promotion of human rights, and how does it secure this important objective, and what is its relationship with other wings of the state? At the end of this module, you will understand the ways in which parliamentarians have used their positions to carry forward the agenda of human rights. You will also learn how parliamentarians can support the embedding of international human rights standards at all levels of governance. And in particular, this module seeks to highlight how parliamentarians fulfill their role as trustees of people's aspirations and the ways in which they ensure that law and policy support human rights. You will also learn a number of other things, including the mechanisms for the protection and promotion of human rights by members of parliament. The creation of a human rights culture in a country requires parliamentarians to play an active role with regard to human rights. And this module explains the ways in which parliamentarians can advance human rights in their role as lawmakers. It explores the multiple roles of parliamentarians in upholding human rights. The parliamentarians help mobilize public support for greater commitment to human rights agenda. We now take up a brief overview of the role of legislature in the task of protection of human rights. Thereafter, I will explain in detail each one of these issues. The Parliament seeks to ensure that international human rights standards are secured through domestic legislation. In addition, the legislature seeks to ensure the representative nature of the parliament. It seeks to guarantee the sovereignty of the parliament by protecting the freedom of expression of its members. And it also proposed to understand the legal framework, in particular parliamentary procedure, and determining Parliament's role in states of emergency and parliamentary action to promote and protect human rights, ratifying human rights treaties, and there are about 100 odd legally binding and non-binding treaties today, adopting the budget, overseeing the executive branch, and establishing parliamentary human rights bodies, and adopting enabling legislation. Now, these are some of the issues, and now we will go into them in little more detail. First, enacting appropriate legislations from time to time to protect human rights, and in particular the rights of vulnerable sections of the public like women, the children, the persons with disabilities, persons belonging to scheduled castes, scheduled tribes and other backward castes, minorities and elderly person, etc. Legislatures use a variety of means. They include among others the question hour, 0 hour, calling attention motion, debates and other legislative means to advance human rights. In addition to the above means, there are parliamentary standing committees on various subjects, among others, to advance human rights. A number of important constitutional amendments have been adopted by the Parliament relating to human rights. In particular, I wish to refer to the 73rd and 74th amendments to which deal with Panchayati Raj institutions, and then the 86th Amendment Act which deals with reservations. And there have been a number of special legislations which have been adopted by Parliament relating to human rights. For instance, the Protection of Human Rights Act 1993, which provides for the setting up of NHRC, State Human Rights Commissions and Human Rights Courts, and then you have a Dowry Prohibition Act, the Commission of Sati Prevention Act. All of these are critically relevant to the protection of women's rights. For instance, the National Commission for Women Act 1990, Immoral Traffic Prevention Act of 1956, the Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Act, Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal Act of 2013 is one of the recent examples. Then you have the Domestic Violence Prevention Act of which was enacted by the Parliament. In addition, there have been many other special legislation which have been adopted by the Parliament. These include Indecent Representation of Women Prohibition Act 1986, the Juvenile Justice Care Protection of Children Amendment Act 2006. In fact, this has a great role in the protection of the child rights. And then you have a Child Marriage Restraint Act 1929, which was amended in the year 1979. And then there is this Preconception and Prenatal Diagnostics Techniques Prohibition of Sex Selection Act of 1994, which was amended in the year 2003, which seeks to prohibit and proscribe female feticide. Then Child Labor Prohibition and Regulation Act 1986, which was amended subsequently, and then the Bonded Labor System Abolition Act, which was adopted in the year 1976, which we considered in the last module. Each one of these instances have a great role in the protection and promotion of human rights. For instance, Protection of Civil Rights Anti-Untouchability Act 1955 has a great significance for the persons belonging to scheduled castes, and The Scheduled Castes and Scheduled Tribes Prevention of Atrocities Act 1989 also goes a long way in furthering the rights of persons belonging to SCs. The Employment of Manual Scavengers and Construction of Dry Latrines Prohibition Act 1993 takes up this heinous practice. The Persons with Disabilities, Equal Opportunities, Protection of Rights and Full Participation Act of 1996 also seeks to further the rights of persons with disabilities. And then there is this National Commission for Minorities Act of 1992, which was amended in 1985. In addition to these legislations, the MPs also use questionnaire, 0 hour, calling attention motion and a variety of other instruments. For instance, let's say cut motion on budgetary demands for grants have been used by MPs to further their role in the socio-welfare agenda. Legislative debates, parliamentary consultative committees attached to different ministries, standing committees are all used by legislators to advance human rights from time to time. In fact, during the parliamentary session, there is some business that is transacted. Between the sessions also, a significant amount of work takes place, and that is done through the parliamentary committees. And these parliamentary committees are appointed or elected by the House or nominated by the Speaker, and which works under the direction of the Speaker and presents its report to the House or to the Speaker and the Secretariat, for which is provided by the Lok Sabha Secretariat. Parliamentary committees are of two types. A, you have a standing committees, and B, you have ad hoc committees. What is the role of these committees in the protection of human rights? Committees on the welfare of scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, as the name itself suggests, goes into an entire gamut of issues concerning SCs and STs. It consists of 20 members of the Lok Sabha, and associated with it are 10 members of the Rajya Sabha. And this committee considers all matters concerning the welfare of the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes and makes detailed recommendations. This committee also secures proper representation of the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes in services and posts in its control. In fact, there are detailed constitutional provisions regarding such reservations. Then you have a committee on the welfare of other backward classes, and its constitution of members is similar to the committee on the welfare of scheduled castes, which we have just now seen. The term of this committee on other backward classes is 1 year. Then there is a committee on empowerment of women. As you know, women hold half the sky, and they consist of 50% of the total population. And this committee came into existence on 29th April 1997 as a result of identical resolutions adopted by both the Houses of Parliament on the occasion of International Women's Day on 8th March 1996. This committee on the empowerment of women consists of 30 members, 20 nominated by the Speaker of Lok Sabha from among the members of the Lok Sabha, and there are 10 members nominated by the Chairman of Rajya Sabha from among the members from the Rajya Sabha. This committee handles among other things, monitoring of the measures taken by the union government in the direction of securing for women equality. For instance, gender equality is of utmost importance in the protection of the rights of women, and then so is securing status and dignity in all matters, improving the status and condition of women, comprehensive education and adequate representation of women in legislative bodies or services and other fields. As you know, there exists a significant gap between the men and women insofar as representation in various fields is concerned. Then you have a standing committee on labor, which was constituted with the ministries or departments of labor and employment and textiles under its jurisdiction. This committee on labor is composed of 20 members from the Lok Sabha and 10 members from the Rajya Sabha. And this committee on labor handles ratification of core convention of particularly number 87 and 98 on right to organize and right to freedom of association and right to collective bargaining, welfare of workers of unorganized sector. All of them have a great relevance for the rights of workers. And then there is a standing committee on food, consumer affairs and public distribution. As you know, right to food is an important economic, social, cultural right. And this committee consists of 31 members, with 21 from the Lok Sabha who are nominated by the Speaker Lok Sabha from amongst the members of the Lok Sabha. And then the remaining 10 members are nominated by the Chairman Rajya Sabha from among its members. This committee on food, consumer affairs and public distribution handles, among other things, procurement, storage and distribution of fruit grains, targeted public distribution system and food security in India. As you know, food security is extremely critical for the protection of rights. And then there is a standing committee on social justice and empowerment. This standing committee on social justice and empowerment came into existence with effect from 5th August 2004. It is serviced by the Lok Sabha Secretariat, and its mandate includes a number of important issues concerning social justice and empowerment. In conclusion, when it comes to promotion and protection of human rights, parliaments and members of parliament are essential actors. Parliamentary activity as a whole, like legislating, adopting the budget and overseeing the executive branch, cover the entire range of political, civil, economic, social and cultural rights, and thus has an immediate and direct impact on the human rights, on the enjoyment of the human rights by the people as a whole. As the state institution or an important wing of the state, legislature represents the people, and through which they participate in the management of public affairs. Parliament is indeed a guardian of human rights. In the Indian context, if you see, the role of legislature in the protection of human rights includes, among other things, the following: enact appropriate legislations from time to time to protect human rights. We have seen a number of examples, the legislations enacted by Parliament to protect vulnerable groups like the women, the children, the minorities, persons belonging to scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, elderly, and so on and so forth. Its role also extends to ratification of International Human Rights Convention and adopting legislation for harmonizing the domestic legislation with the international conventions which have already been adopted. Legislators use a variety of means including questionnaire, 0 hour, calling attention motion, debates and other legislative means to advance human rights all the time. And then there are parliamentary standing committees on various subjects. We have seen a number of examples of these committees, and we have seen their composition and their mandate and how they advance human rights. To sum up, the legislature has a critical role in protection and promotion of human rights. Thank you.